Lawyers for Wikileaks founder Julian Assange say they've been given no indication US authorities are considering a possible plea deal following a report in the Wall Street Journal. It says Julian Assange could plead guilty to a reduced charge of mishandling classified information, which could allow him to walk free without travelling to the United States. Greg Barnes, SC, is an advisor to the Australian Assange campaign and joins me now from Melbourne. Good morning, good to have you along.
Thanks, Dan.
So what is the latest with what appears to be discussions around Julian Assange?
Well, I'd simply refer you to the statement of Barry Pollack, who is, of course, Julian's United States lawyer. He's indicated in the statement that certainly it's not appropriate to discuss the case because it's before the UK courts, but he has said that he's been given no indication of resolution by the Department of Justice.
And is it the case that there are conversations that are ongoing about whether or not there would be a deal on the table?
Well, Dan, I'll just refer you back to what Barry Pollack has said. I mean, the real issue in this case, of course, is that we keep pressuring the Australian government to continue its efforts to work with the Biden administration to ensure that Julian Assange can rejoin his family. And that those efforts we want to be ongoing, and we want increased pressure by the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Wong and others to continue the lobbying efforts that they've put in so far, because it's fundamentally important that Australia, as a key ally of the United States, gets a result here, because it's the right result and it ends a great injustice and a political injustice.
And there's certainly been a very strong lobbying move from members of Parliament right across the political divide, hasn't it? Has that had an impact on the way that the political leaders are having these conversations?
Well, certainly the group that went over last year, as you rightly say, went from the left to the right. You know, Greens on the one hand, and people like Senator Antic from South Australia, very conservative Liberal, on the other. Gabriel Shipton, Julian's brother, attended that trip, and they were well received, and they were able to impart very important information about the case. So Washington is very aware of the Australian position, not only the government, but also the fact that there was a recent resolution in the Parliament passed 86-42 in support of ending this case.
And it certainly would appear that the support is growing in Australia for Julian Assange to be brought home. What sort of political pressure is that putting on the Australian government?
Well, I think the Australian government knows that there is considerable support for Julian Assange. You know, that sort of 7 or 8 out of 10 Australians take the view that this case has gone on long enough. They may take a particular view about Assange himself or about the allegations, but they just say this case has gone on long enough. And there are many people, of course, who say this is a direct threat to freedom of the press and free speech, and it's a very dangerous precedent being set by the United States.
Greg, do you think there's any reason to believe that this will be brought to a close anytime soon?
Well, certainly, you know, as I've said, Dan, we are continuing to ensure that the Albanese government pressures the United States in relation to this matter. You know, we are a key ally, and, you know, that pressure should continue. It's certainly been on the radar over the past 18 months to 2 years since this government was elected, and the cross-party alliance that went to the United States last year is clearly indicating to the US that, as the Prime Minister has said, you know, we want this matter to come to an end quickly.
Greg Barnes, SC, advisor to the Australian Assange campaign. Thank you for your company this morning.
Thank you, Dan.